Hello again. Vice President
Good
Boyd.
afternoon.
There you are.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm here.
Meeting to order at 4 o'clock. All rise, please. Lauren, if you would, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you.
Place your hand over your heart and begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Please be seated. Roll call. I'm sorry, who is? The inestimable Mr. Worth.
I'm here, Mr. President.
Very good, sir. Lauren, roll call, please.
President Sanamon,
Present.
Director Kaczynski,
Present.
Director Griffin,
Here.
Director Rotora,
Present.
Vice President Boyd.
Present.
Vice President Voigt is here remotely today. Very good. Posting of agenda declaration.
The agenda for today's special board meeting was posted on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022.
All right, thank you. Conflict of interest declaration. Director Kaczynski.
None.
Vice President Boyd.
None.
Director Griffin.
None.
Director Rotora.
None.
President St. Amand, none, but I must inform you that I am an employee of the federal government. However, that being said, anything I say today or any opinion that I express does not necessarily reflect that of my employer. Thank you. Public questions and comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the board on any matter not on the agenda and over which the board has jurisdiction. However, no action may be taken by the board of directors on any item not appearing on the agenda. Non-agenda speakers are asked to limit their presentations to 5 minutes. Public questions and comments on items listed on the agenda will be accepted at any time the item is brought forth for consideration by the board. When you're recognized by the chairperson, please state your name and address for the record. There are no members of the public present with us in the meeting room. Is there anyone online, Chris? Okay. So I'm going to, since there is only Vice President Boyd and Jim Worth online, I'm going to go ahead and press on to item number 7. Approval of resolution number 22 TAC 17. All right, very good.
Mr.
Jim, would you like
President,
to, Jim,
who's
this?
Jim Worth. I said, when you're ready, I'll.
Please go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Lauren, members of the board. So we have been working with trying to retain Don in a post-retirement capacity, I will say. And Don announced his retirement some time ago, and the board went through an extensive recruitment process. And we actually the board actually made an offer, and there was an acceptance verbally. And so we thought we had ourselves a general manager. And then recently, the candidate withdrew his acceptance. And the board finds itself in the position where the general manager, Don Zadiba, is set to retire on December 31st of this year. Don has indicated that he does not want to change the date or terms of his retirement. And so Don and I coordinated. We've been working with CalPERS. And as it turns out, there's a general rule that prohibits a CalPERS employee from working for a CalPERS related employer for 180 days until he's retired. So technically, Don would not be eligible to work for the district until July 1st. But because of the situation that was caused with us not having a general manager, we talked to CalPERS. There are certain exceptions. It's called retired annuitant. Some of you may be familiar with it if you're with that. So CalPERS allows Don to not alter his retirement at all and to be employed by the district in an interim position if certain rules are complied with. And those rules would be Don is only able to work 960 hours during a fiscal year. His compensation cannot exceed the amount of compensation offered to his position. It's a limited interim position, meaning the board can only appoint Don to be the interim general manager for one time. And then Don's duties would be the exact same as they are right now. So because there's a CalPERS requirement that says you've got to wait 180 days before you go to work, the purpose of this board meeting primarily is to approve resolution number 2217, which appoints Don as the interim general manager for a term of 9 months, which is something that I've discussed with Don and he's comfortable with, but he's not comfortable with 10 months, 9 months it is. And so I've set up the contract consistent with, as I've discussed with the board, and to comply with the CalPERS requirement. It allows Don to continue to be the general manager, interim general manager for 9 months. The compensation, the board's getting ready to go out to board to bid again, so there's no surprise. The intention would be to raise the maximum GM salary to $275,000, just based on everything else. Don's able to receive that amount, which is about $29,916.17 per month. That is what is proposed in the contract for Don's compensation. It would be a monthly compensation package with an hourly not to exceed 40 hours per week, where we got to worry about that 960-hour CalPERS restriction, and then Don would continue on as the general manager. The board is able to do this is because the general manager position is considered critical, and we've had the recent dropout or withdrawal from the candidate, and so Don is able and is willing to serve in an interim position until the board is able to hire a permanent general manager. And just to be clear, the last process took 5 to 6 months, as the board is well aware of. We've done 9 months to give us a little bit of time. But if the board finds a general manager effective June 1st, then Don's employment as the interim general manager would terminate. And I have also prepared a contract that I sent to the board earlier. It's in a draft form, but it's something that I have researched, and I've talked to CalPERS a number of times with Don, and I believe this compensation, the contract, is consistent with what I've described to the board: compensation, terms, duties, and everything. And so ultimately we're looking for the board to approve resolution 2217, and then approve the at-will interim general manager employment agreement with Zediba, subject to legal approval. And if I may, Mr. President, the reason I'm asking for subject to legal is because I'm still talking to CalPERS as we go through this process. And so if they tell me to change something that I would consider non-substantive, I would. If it's something that I would consider substantive, I would bring it back to the board.
Okay.
And with that, that's all I have to open it up, and I'd be willing to answer any questions or concerns, or if Don wants to add something.
So I would like to clarify that we have a resolution 2217, and we also have a contractual employment agreement that you would like the board to approve conditionally based on legal approval.
The contract yes,
Yes.
just that based on further
Okay.
discussion, I would have to count.
I would prefer to handle those separately. I'm sorry, Mr. Zediba.
Well, Mr. President, if you read the resolution is, it attaches the contract as an exhibit.
I did read the resolution.
It should be one motion, and we could function.
I know, I saw it earlier. All right, thank you. All right, never mind. I'll talk to you about that offline. We'll do it as one resolution. Go ahead, Don.
Okay, just a few points to make sure the board's clear on it. The agreement is for 9 months. My hope would be that it'd be sooner than that, but Jim and I talked, and since you can only do this one time, we settled on 9 months. So again, my hope would be that this would not go 9 months. Also, to be clear, during the time that I'm serving as interim, that the salary is a monthly salary. So it's paid by the month, not on an hourly basis. When I transition, once we transition to a new general manager, the intent was for me to be available sort of as a consultant role for litigation and such. At that point, we would switch over to an hourly rate. So make sure the board understands that. Also, and I do understand that I don't accrue any benefits, no vacation, sick leave, nothing like that. But the schedule is flexible. If we have a trip planned, then I'm able to take that time to go out of town. I would continue to do what I do now. When I do take vacation, I answer emails, I monitor things on my phone. So I would continue to do that. But you know, we are planning a trip probably to the end of February or so for a week. So I just want to make sure the board allows me the flexibility to not be chained to Ridgecrest necessarily for the next 9 months. So make that clear. Also, I told Jim, it's very important to me that CalPERS literally signs off on this agreement, the conditions of this agreement, before I sign it, because my pension is at stake. If there's something that goes wrong, it's in jeopardy. So I want to make sure that I have something from CalPERS that says that what Jim has put together meets the requirements before I sign it. So I just want to make sure that you understand that.
So are you referring to both the resolution and the contractual agreement? Or are you talking about, are you going to hold off on signing the contract until after CalPERS is?
I'm not required to sign well, I am as the secretary, but in terms of the agreement, my intention was just the agreement, to not sign the agreement until I have CalPERS's blessing.
Okay, so I see.
And we hope to get that. I mean, we're going to do everything we can to get that before this takes effect.
So I just would like to say by name, who would be signing the resolution as secretary of the board of directors?
Don would, Mr. President.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd sign the resolution.
right, okay.
He's still the secretary.
Yes, well, I have a question about, if I have questions about this, it's because they're woven together. Go ahead, Director Griffin.
I just have a couple questions real quick. I am for doing this, and I appreciate Don being willing to step up to do this to help the board of directors out. I want to make sure that this does nothing to affect Don. So if we vote on this today as a resolution, Jim, could that potentially affect Don? Because I don't want to put anything into place that come January 1st, if CalPERS hasn't written a letter yet, that they accept this, they approve this, and then we have something in writing, is there any way it could affect Don? Because I do not want to affect his retirement in any way.
So, fair question, Chuck. The resolution, I think, is good to go. It's the board saying that you want to hire Don. You know, Don doesn't accept your employment until he signs that contract. We've already had 3 conversations with CalPERS, so we're very hopeful that we can get something by next week. But I told Don his protection is not signing the contract until he is comfortable.
Okay, so if that's after January 1st, we're okay as a district. If it's January 5th, I mean, it doesn't really matter if, we would just have to have somebody fill in until then, is that correct?
Well, maybe you won't have one for a week.
Okay.
Chuck, the way this is, we're learning more stuff all the time. And now we have people that we can talk to. I'm certainly hoping to have a little bit more information next week, which is why I've asked for the leadway on the contract language.
Okay.
But Don's ultimate protection would be not signing the contract, because then there's no agreement between the district and Don, and that would protect both sides.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Yes. As I understand it, I thought we were creating a resolution. That's because that's something that CalPERS would be looking for. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes, it is, Ron.
Okay, so we have to have a resolution in place in order for them to move ahead. The other thing I have is what were the salary amounts yearly that this was based on? I thought, was it did you say
275. Don's contract is based on $275,000.
And that's based on the maximum we would be offering when we fill the position?
That is correct. And to be clear with the board, we advertised last year for $250.
Okay,
It didn't work out that well.
all right.
The board had, before CalPERS came up, the board had authorized something significantly more than what we're offering now. And so I talked to Don, and this was the compromise, and I certainly hope it's okay with the board.
Okay, I asked that because I thought I saw the 250 somewhere, and I'm not finding it. That's why, but you clarify it's 275, and
Ron, the 250 was on the recruitment for the prior,
okay.
back in earlier this year.
Okay, so this is based on a maximum being offered for the position, and I agree with that. I think it's fine as long as Don is okay with this, then I'm okay with it. So, and I agree that I think, like Chuck, you were asking if we move ahead with this, and for some reason we find out that CalPERS isn't working with us, Don just doesn't sign a contract until all that's worked out with them, as I see it. So I think, Don, do you feel you're protected if we approve the resolution and everything as it is now? Okay, that's all I need. Thank you.
Director Rotora,
No comments, no questions.
Vice President Boyd.
Yeah, I just have one. Jim, when you described the process that we're looking at when we hire a new GM, you said that Don would step down at the moment we hire the new GM, but we're going to need to have some time where Don can work with the new GM to do a handoff. Did you misspeak, or do we have to come up with a different strategy once we hire a new GM to figure out how to secure Don's time?
Well, I'm going to say for purposes of that I misspoke, because if you read, Mal, I don't have the whole. There's a section that provides leeway when the board selects Don's replacement for there to be a little bit of a window.
Okay, good.
But it cannot be a long one, according to the CalPERS rules.
Okay, a couple of weeks or something like that.
Something like that.
Okay.
But now, if I may, Mr. President?
Yes, please.
So the board will recall that before all this came up, there was discussion about retaining Don to handle, I'm gonna call them special projects, litigation, SIGMA-related matters. And depending upon how long, Don will continue to handle these special projects while he is the interim general manager. Depending upon the time, when the board finds the replacement, you might need Don, you may or may not need Don as that consultant's role. But we have also advised CalPERS that is a possibility, but it's something that you don't request right now. All we want Don to be is the interim general manager. I've given him a heads up. When we find a replacement for Don, then we'll take a look about, if we need Don in that consultant's role, and then we pick it up at that time. You don't do them simultaneously.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
you.
all, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Jim.
That's all the questions I had.
All right, thank you, Vice President Boyd. All right, ask, do I have anyone willing to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept resolution number 22-17, which references the employment agreement.
I'll second.
Which the board approves subject to legal.
Yes, let's add that subject to legal, of course.
I thought you said that wrong, thank you.
Yeah, I may have.
Is there any board discussion? All right, there's no member of the public with us, and does not appear to be anyone having joined us since the beginning of the meeting. So I will go ahead and call for the vote.
President St. Amand,
Yes.
Director Kaczynski,
Yes.
Director Griffin,
Yes.
Director Rotora,
Yes.
Vice President Boyd.
Yes.
Let the record show that the resolution passed unanimously. All right.
And,
Yes, Jim?
yes, hey, Lauren, could you grab David's signature before he leaves and send me a PDF of the resolution, please?
Absolutely, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further business? All right,
I have a question. If
Go
it's
ahead.
appropriate. With the holiday next week, is there a objection to canceling the water management since we just had an update?
I'm not, there's no objection from me because presently, I believe Stan and,
Myself.
are you on it? Yeah, as well, yeah.
So I don't know if there would be an objection to that with anybody with staff or?
I don't have an
I
objection.
don't object.
I don't think staff would object.
I'm gonna be gone.
And I would just suggest the same thing, actually.
Okay.
Okay.
Because we have a meeting before the next, GA meeting, correct?
Okay.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we got plenty of time.
What about the traditions of Cratchit, who came in the day after Christmas to work? Oh. Mal, any objection?
Well, I don't know.
All right.
No, I guess I could do without one.
Is his name Cratchit or
But I would-
Mal?
That I would say, go ahead and cancel the meeting, but be in earlier all the more the next day. All right. Then I'm going to call this open session closed at 4:22 p.m.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas, drive safe.
Happy Hanukkah.
Be safe.